Hello and welcome. Today, we're diving into a message that has the power to completely shift your life. If you've ever felt like the enemy has stolen your joy, your opportunities, or your peace, I'm here to tell you this is not the end of your story. God is not just the restorer of what you've lost. He is the multiplier who takes what was meant for your harm and turns it into a blessing so great it overflows. Stay with me, because this is a message you don't want to miss. Right now, you might be looking at your life and seeing emptiness where abundance should be. Maybe you've experienced setbacks that left you questioning if things will ever change. But hear this: the enemy's attacks are no match for God's power. What has been stolen will not only be returned, but it will come back multiplied. God's blessings aren't just about restoration. They're about creating a life of overflow, one where you can thrive, not just survive. This is your moment. Don't let doubt or fear hold you back. The promises of God are already at work, and today we're going to unlock what it means to live in divine multiplication. Get ready, because your breakthrough starts now. What feels like loss today is just the foundation for the abundance God is preparing for you. It's easy to look at what's missing in your life and feel defeated. Maybe you've watched opportunities pass by or resources dwindle, and it feels like everything is slipping away. But let me tell you something. What seems like a setback is just the beginning of God's plan to bless you in ways you can't even imagine. Prosperity isn't hindered by loss, it's magnified through restoration. The enemy wants you to focus on what's gone. He wants you to believe that what's been stolen can never be recovered. But that's because he knows the truth. When God steps in, he doesn't just restore what was lost, he multiplies it. Every setback is an opportunity for God to show his power and bring blessings into your life that far exceed what you thought you had before. When you lose something, it's easy to dwell on the emptiness it leaves behind. But God doesn't see your emptiness as the end. He sees it as the perfect place to pour out his abundance. The enemy might have caused the disruption, but he doesn't control the outcome. God does. And God's outcome for you is always one of increase, favor, and prosperity. Think of every challenge you've faced as a seed being planted. It may look like nothing is happening right now, but beneath the surface, God is nurturing something far greater than you could expect. The enemy may have dug a hole, but God is using that very space to grow something that will overflow in your life. Loss has no lasting power over a life rooted in God's promises. Even when it feels like the enemy has taken everything, God's plan is always to turn that loss into gain. What he has planned for you isn't just enough to get by. It's an overflow of blessings, a life so abundant that even the enemy's greatest attacks will pale in comparison to the prosperity God is bringing your way. So don't fix your eyes on what's missing. Lift your head and prepare your heart. Every loss is a signal that God's blessings are about to flow. What the enemy tried to take will be returned to you, not as it was, but multiplied beyond measure. The setback is temporary, but the prosperity God is bringing is eternal. Get ready to receive it. Restoration isn't just a possibility with God. It's a promise he's already set in motion for your life. When life feels broken, it's hard to imagine everything coming back together again. You may be holding pieces of dreams that once felt whole, wondering if they can ever be restored. Let me remind you of this unshakable truth. God doesn't just restore what's lost. He makes it better, stronger, and more abundant than it ever was. His restoration is never a simple return to the way things were. It's an upgrade to something greater. God's promise to restore is one of the most powerful assurances in your life. No matter what has been taken, peace, opportunities, resources, or relationships, God's plan is to rebuild what the enemy tried to destroy. But here's the key. His restoration is not limited by what you think you've lost. He doesn't operate within the boundaries of human logic. What you thought was gone forever is only the beginning of what he's preparing to give back to you. Restoration starts with hope. And hope begins when you believe that God is still working, even when you can't see it. He's not idle in the face of your losses. Every moment, He's orchestrating people, circumstances, and opportunities to come together in ways you couldn't predict. That's the beauty of His restoration. It's not limited to what you expect, but always exceeds what you imagined. Maybe you feel like you've been waiting too long for things to turn around. Don't let the wait shake your faith. Restoration isn't always instant, but it's always worth it. Sometimes God allows a season of waiting so He can prepare you for the magnitude of the blessings He's bringing. He doesn't just want to restore the pieces of your life. He wants to build something new, something that reflects His glory and goodness in ways you've never seen before. What sets God's restoration apart is that it's never partial. He doesn't just give back enough to make you feel better. He gives back in abundance, overflowing with blessings. The enemy's attempts to steal from you are no match for God's ability to restore. What's more, His promise of restoration isn't dependent on your strength, but on His unwavering faithfulness. That's why you can hold on to hope even in the darkest times, because the God who restores is already at work. God's promise of restoration is your foundation of hope. Don't let fear or doubt convince you otherwise. What you've lost is not the end of your story. It's the setup for something greater. He's preparing to rebuild and restore, not just to return you to where you were, but to elevate you to a life of even greater prosperity and joy. Hold on, because the best is yet to come. God doesn't just give back what was lost. He multiplies it until your life overflows with blessings. Restoration is incredible, but with God, it doesn't stop there. He is the God of multiplication, the one who takes what little you have left after the storm and turns it into an unimaginable harvest. What the enemy tried to reduce to nothing, God expands into abundance. His multiplication is not just about meeting your needs. It's about exceeding them so completely that your blessings spill over into the lives of others. You might look at what's left in your life and think it's not enough, just scraps, remnants, or fragments. But that's where God does His greatest work. Scarcity in your hands becomes abundance in His. He's not limited by the size of what remains. He's empowered by your faith in His ability to multiply it. Every blessing He gives has the potential to expand beyond your wildest dreams when placed in His hands. Think about the areas in your life where you've felt lack. Maybe it's resources, relationships, or even confidence in yourself. Whatever feels empty or insufficient right now, God has the power to transform it. And His multiplication doesn't follow human math. It follows divine purpose. He multiplies your time, your talents, and your opportunities in ways that leave no doubt that His hand is at work. But there's something important about multiplication. It often requires surrender. When you trust God with what little you have, even if it feels insignificant, you make room for Him to multiply it. That might look like stepping out in faith when you don't have all the answers, or choosing gratitude even in seasons of lack. God works through your willingness to trust Him with the small things, and in return, He gives you more than you could ever ask or imagine. The beauty of God's multiplication is that it's never just for you. He multiplies blessings in your life so that you can be a source of blessing to others. Your overflow is meant to inspire, uplift, and strengthen those around you. When God multiplies what you've been given, it becomes a testimony of His goodness, a visible reminder that He is the God of more than enough. Scarcity is not your destiny. Overflow is. When you place your trust in God, He takes what's left and turns it into abundance. What was meant to be your loss becomes your victory. Prepare your heart, because the miracle of multiplication is already at work in your life, and soon you'll see the fullness of God's blessings spilling over into every area. You are stepping into a season of overflow. Faith is the key that unlocks the floodgates of God's prosperity in your life. There's something extraordinary about faith. It isn't just a feeling or a vague belief. It's the foundation upon which God's blessings are built. Faith takes what seems impossible and makes it real. It's what allows you to look at an empty situation and still declare, God will fill this with abundance. Without faith, even the promise of prosperity feels out of reach. But with it, nothing is impossible. Prosperity begins in the heart, with the unshakable conviction that God is both willing and able to pour blessings into your life. The enemy will try to plant seeds of doubt, whispering lies that make you question whether you're deserving or whether God has forgotten you. But faith silences those lies. Faith reminds you that prosperity isn't about what you've earned, it's about who God is. And He is a God of abundant provision. Faith doesn't wait for evidence. Faith acts in the absence of proof, trusting that God's promises are as good as fulfilled even before you see them. When you hold on to faith in the face of lack, you're not just surviving, you're positioning yourself to thrive. That act of belief opens doors that no one can shut, unleashing opportunities, resources, and favor that flow directly from God's hand. Faith also requires persistence. There will be moments when your blessings don't arrive on your timeline. The wait might feel long, but don't let that shake your trust in God's plan. He's not just preparing blessings for you, He's preparing you for the blessings. Every delay has a purpose. Every challenge strengthens your faith, stretching it so that when the blessings come, you're ready to receive and sustain them. And here's the beauty of unshakable faith. It's contagious. When you walk in faith, you inspire others to believe in God's promises for their own lives. Your faith becomes a testimony of God's goodness, a living example of what it looks like to trust Him completely. And as your faith grows, so does your capacity to experience and share His prosperity. Faith is the bridge between where you are and the abundance God has prepared for you. Don't let doubt or fear keep you stuck. Stand firm, knowing that God honors faith with prosperity that overflows. Your trust in Him is the key that unlocks blessings beyond anything you could ever imagine. Keep believing, because your faith is unlocking the doors to divine prosperity right now. Lack doesn't define you. God's favor does. There's a shift that happens when you step into the favor of God. What once felt like endless struggle suddenly transforms into effortless breakthroughs. The obstacles that seemed immovable start to crumble, and the resources you thought were out of reach come rushing into your life. That's what God's favor does. It doesn't just balance the scales, it tilts them overwhelmingly in your direction. When you walk in God's favor, you begin to see lack for what it truly is, a temporary condition, not a permanent reality. The enemy wants you to believe that scarcity is your destiny, but nothing could be further from the truth. Lack is not a reflection of who you are. It's an opportunity for God to demonstrate His power and provision in your life. His favor has the final say, and His favor always wins. But favor isn't something you earn through effort. It's a gift freely given by God. It's His way of showing you that you are chosen, loved, and supported. Favor opens doors that others can't shut. It places you in positions of influence and opportunity that no amount of human effort could achieve. Favor transforms not enough into more than enough, because it flows from the limitless resources of heaven. Walking in favor requires a mindset shift. You can't let the shadow of lack shape your thoughts and actions. Instead, you must align yourself with the truth of who God is, a provider, a restorer, a multiplier. Begin to see yourself not as someone struggling to get by, but as someone already walking in the overflow of God's blessings. Favor isn't something you're waiting for, it's something you're already living in. Lack has no authority in your life because God's favor is already working on your behalf. You are not defined by what's missing. You are defined by God's abundance. Walk boldly, knowing that every step you take is guided by His hand and every need you have is already met. This is your time to triumph over lack and walk fully in the unstoppable favor of God. You weren't created to merely survive. You were made to thrive in God's abundant overflow. When God multiplies and restores, He doesn't stop at just enough. His blessings go beyond what you need, spilling over into every area of your life. This isn't accidental, it's intentional. God's design for you is one of abundance, where your life reflects His glory through the overflow of His goodness. A life of overflow isn't just about material prosperity, it's about living in the fullness of God's promises. It's the peace that surpasses understanding, the joy that isn't shaken by circumstances, and the love that fills every empty space. It's the ability to wake up each day knowing that your needs are met and that you're positioned to be a blessing to others. Living in overflow means you stop striving and start receiving. It's about letting go of the fear that you'll run out and embracing the truth that God's supply never ends. When you live with this mindset, abundance becomes a natural part of your life. You no longer operate from a place of scarcity, but from a place of trust, knowing that God's hands are always open to pour more into your life. But overflow comes with purpose. God doesn't bless you just so you can hoard blessings for yourself. He pours into your life so you can pour into others. The abundance He gives is meant to flow through you, impacting everyone you touch. Your life becomes a testimony of His provision and a beacon of hope for those still waiting for their breakthrough. This is the life God has for you, a life of overflow, a life where His blessings are so abundant that they can't help but spill over into the lives of others. Step into this truth and live boldly, knowing that your story isn't one of just enough, it's one of more than enough. In God's hands, your life is destined to reflect His abundant glory, now and forever. As you step into the overflow of God's blessings, remember this: you were never meant to live a life of scarcity. Restoration, multiplication, and abundance are your divine inheritance. Embrace the truth that God's favor is working for you, even in the unseen. You are walking into a season of prosperity, joy, and peace that goes beyond anything you could ever imagine. Trust Him, stay faithful, and watch as He transforms every area of your life. If this message touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Subscribe to our channel to receive more inspirational content like this, content designed to encourage, uplift, and guide you closer to God's promises. And don't forget to like this video to help others discover the same life-changing truths you've experienced today. We're so grateful to have you as part of this community. Know that you're not alone in your journey. We're here to grow with you, pray for you, and celebrate your victories. Until next time, stay strong, stay faithful, and walk boldly in the blessings God has prepared for you. You are loved, chosen, and unstoppable. See you in the next video.